What if I told you that nothing in the world could ever truly touch you? I'm not talking about your skin, your body, or even your emotions. I'm talking about something deeper, from a part of you that cannot be hurt, praised, betrayed, or lifted up. Something that remains absolutely untouched, even when everything around it seems to fall apart. Most of our pain comes from the belief that we are vulnerable to the things of the world, that we are like leaves carried by the wind of opinions, events, losses, and desires. But what if this is all just a game, a theater where we confuse the actor with the role, forgetting that behind each character there is always the same silent stage? We live trapped in a name, a form, a story, as if everything we are could fit into a poorly written biography. But notice, what about you remains the same? Even when your thoughts change, your feelings fluctuate, and your life transforms, there is something there, silent watching. Something that has never changed since the first day he opened his eyes to this world. That something, that presence, is what you really are. Not the name, not the image in the mirror, not the resume or the traumas he carries like trophies or scars. What you observe silently, without judging, without getting attached, is your true nature. And she, my friend, cannot be touched by anything. But see, the game of life is very convincing. We are trained from an early age to believe that we are just this body, this mind, this story. We are told that we must protect ourselves, fight, conquer, avoid failure, seek success, be good, please. And so day after day, we feed the illusion that our security is out there in something or someone. But the real security was never there. True security is only possible when you realize that you are not that which can be threatened. When you understand that what you are cannot die, cannot be destroyed, nor can it be glorified. It's like space, always there, even when we fill the room with furniture or words. Space does not judge what enters it, it just is. When you realize this, something changes. It's not that the world stops provoking you, or that situations stop being difficult, but you stop getting lost in them. Things keep happening as they always have, but now you are no longer the doll being tossed by the waves. You are the entire ocean, and the waves just fleeting movements on its surface. There is immense freedom in this realization, the freedom of not having to react to everything, not defending yourself all the time, of simply allowing things to come and go like clouds in the sky. Because now you know that heaven remains no matter what passes through it. And this is what we call peace. Not the peace of absolute silence, of the absence of noise or problems, but the peace of knowing that deep down nothing can really shake you. Because what you are, not what you think you are, but what you truly are, is beyond any form of threat. He is the eternal observer, the pure being. But perhaps upon hearing this, discomfort will arise in you. A restlessness that asks, if nothing can affect me, then why do I suffer so much? Why do I feel torn when someone rejects me? Why do I feel afraid when I lose something important? And that's a fair question, because although the essence of who we are is untouchable, we spend our entire lives believing that we are everything that can be touched. And this identification is the center of our suffering. Imagine that you are dreaming. In the dream, you firmly believe that you are that character who is in that city living that story. And if in the dream someone offends you, you feel deeply affected. If you lose something dear, the pain seems unbearable. But then you wake up, and in that instant, everything that seemed so solid and real dissolves like fog in the sun. And you realize none of that was truly you. You were the dreamer, not the character. Waking up spiritually is exactly that. It's not about running away from life or ignoring feelings. It's about realizing that you were never the character who suffers and struggles and desperately tries to find some kind of control. You have always been the space where all this happens, the silent stage where the play of life is played. When you identify with the actor, you live in fear of making mistakes, of being judged, of not being enough. But when you recognize that it is the stage, fear loses its basis, because the stage does not need to be accepted. It is simply there, allowing the expression of everything. And yet, paradoxically, this realization does not make us cold or indifferent. On the contrary, it makes us more alive, more sensitive, because now we can truly feel without losing ourselves. We can love without fear of losing. We can suffer without falling into despair, because we know that there is something in us that remains even when everything seems to fall apart. Observe nature. The river cannot resist what it encounters. He doesn't argue with the rocks. He doesn't refuse to take turns. It just flows. And yet it reaches the ocean. There is a silent wisdom in the movement of waters that we forget when we try to control every aspect of life. We think we need to protect ourselves, arm ourselves, close ourselves off. And in doing so, we harden, we become rigid, and everything that is rigid one day breaks. Rigidity is an armor built by fear. Fear of suffering, of being rejected, of not being loved, of not being enough. But see, these pains do not arise from reality itself, but from the idea we have of who we should be and what the world should give us. It's the expectation that hurts, not life. Life is just what it is. When we let go of the need for things to be different, when we stop demanding that the world fit into our mental molds, something magical happens. We discover that there is beauty even in what we previously rejected. That there is freedom even in chaos, that there is love even in absence, because we are finally seeing life not through the lens of fear, but through the eyes of presence. And presence does not judge, she just sees. She doesn't ask, is this good or bad? It just recognizes, that is. And in that simple and profound recognition, there is healing, because we stopped resisting. And when we stop resisting, we stop suffering, not because everything becomes pleasant, but because everything becomes acceptable. You see, you don't have to go to a monastery, give up everything, or meditate for decades to realize this. It's available right now, this very moment. Breathe. Feel the air coming in. Feel your body here. Listen to the sounds around you. Notice the thoughts arising and passing away. And now ask yourself, who is noticing all this? Not as an intellectual question, but as a silent immersion. Who is the one who observes this observer? This awareness is what you are. And he doesn't need to be protected, approved, or cured. It is already complete. He is already free. He is the stillness behind the movement, the screen behind the image. And when you rest in that recognition, everything changes. Not the world outside, but the way you relate to it. Because now you know nothing can really affect you. Not in the sense of making you less. Not in the sense of destroying you, because what you are was never born and will never die. It is the eternal now, always present, always full, always free. And it's curious how everything in our culture conspires to make us forget this truth. From an early age, we are taught that our identity depends on what we do, what we achieve, and the image we project in the world. Be somebody, we are told. Prove your worth. And so we begin to build an armor of concepts, titles, beliefs, clothes, rehearsed smiles, everything to protect ourselves from what we fear most, emptiness. But what if this emptiness, instead of being something to be feared, is actually its purest essence? What if behind all the masks and roles there is a silence that is not absence but presence, an immensity that is not hollow but full? The ego trembles in the face of emptiness, because it knows that there is nowhere to hide in it. And yet it is in that same emptiness that we find true freedom. See the sky. He is always present, even when the clouds hide him. Clouds may seem threatening, heavy, laden with thunder, but they come and go. The sky remains. So is the consciousness that you are. Thoughts come and go, emotions rise and fall, experiences come and go. But that which perceives all this remains. But then why do we identify so much with clouds and forget the sky? Because the ego loves stories. He lives on narratives, I am like this because that happened to me. I can't do it because I failed at that moment. No one understands me. And of course these stories are not false. They happened. But they don't define who you are. They are just pages in a book that is being written. But you are not the book. You are the blank paper upon which everything is printed. By understanding this, a new dimension opens up. Because now you no longer need to live in constant reaction. You no longer need to justify your existence. You don't need to defend yourself or prove anything. It might just be. And in this being, everything that needs to flourish, flourishes. Because life doesn't need effort to be lived. It is the effort to control it that exhausts us. Watch how the birds fly, how trees grow, how the waves break on the beach. None of them are trying to be anything. They simply are. And in this being, everything manifests perfectly. We humans are the only ones who try to be what we already are. We try to find what was never lost. We seek in time what can only be experienced in the now. And that is the great paradox. You are already what you are looking for, but as long as you keep looking outside, you won't see it. Because what you are cannot be found as an object. It cannot be defined or understood as if it were an idea. It can only be lived, sensed, recognized, and this recognition is not an achievement. It is not enlightenment, falling from the sky with lights and angels singing. It is a simple awakening to what has always been there. It's like realizing you were holding your glasses while looking for them. Reality was never hidden. We were just looking elsewhere. But to see you need silence. Not the silence of the absence of sound, but the inner silence. A space without judgment, without analysis, without effort. A space where you just are. And it is in this space that everything reveals itself, not as a definitive answer, but as a living presence. And then life becomes simple, not in the sense of easy, but in the sense of uncomplicated, because now you're no longer fighting it. It's flowing with her. You're dancing to the rhythm that you've always been playing, but that you used to try to control. And interestingly enough, the more you let go, the more things align, not because you now have magical power, but because you are no longer in the way. You stopped imposing your will on something that already knew where to take you. It's like stopping, paddling against the current, and finally letting the river lead you. And the river, my dear, always knew the way to the sea. And in this flow, in this relaxing into what is, we begin to savor a new way of living. No longer guided by fear of what could go wrong, but inspired by curiosity about what is unfolding now. We began to see that control was an illusion, a desperate attempt by the ego to ensure permanence in a world where everything changes. And by giving up that control, we don't lose power. We gain freedom. See, the search for absolute security is like trying to fix a drop of water in the air. Life offers no guarantees. It is pure, uninterrupted, incessant movement. And trying to stop this movement is like fighting the wind, exhausting, frustrating, useless. But when we accept the wind, when we surrender to its direction, something extraordinary happens. We stop resisting reality and start dancing with it. And it is in this dance that we discover a wisdom that cannot be learned in books nor taught through words. It is the wisdom of inner silence, from deep listening, from voluntary surrender to mystery. It is not about passivity, but about presence. It's not about giving up, but about no longer insisting on forcing the world to be the way we want it to be. And surprisingly, it's when we stop demanding that everything fits our mold that true beauty appears. Because life, when left alone, flourishes. Just as a flower doesn't need effort to bloom, so your deepest being doesn't need effort to shine. He just needs space. Space to be what you are, without fear, without masks, without the need to be validated. And the most impressive thing in this space, we realize that there is no separation. That the I and the world are not two, that the border between what feels and what is felt dissolves, and everything becomes a game of mirrors, a dance of reflections. The other stops being a stranger and becomes a reflection of yourself. Experiences stop being threats and become teachings. Pain stops being the enemy and becomes a messenger. In this state, even suffering takes on a new light. It doesn't magically disappear, but it does lose weight, because we no longer see it as something personal, as a punishment or failure. We see it as a natural movement of existence, like rain that falls and nourishes the soil. And then even sadness is welcomed, even fear is accepted, because now we know everything passes, everything comes and goes. Only being remains, and the longer we remain in this being, the more we realize that true happiness is not in things, nor in achievements, nor in people. It lies in the simple ability to be present, to breathe and feel the miracle of being alive, to hear the sound of the wind, the song of a bird, the laughter of a child, and know that's enough. That's all. But the mind wants more, always wants more. You want to explain control. Repeat. And in this incessant wanting we disconnect from the now. We live trapped in the past that no longer exists and the future that never arrives. And we forget that the only moment we have is this. It's always been that way. It will always be this. There is no other place to be but here. There is no other time to live except now. Everything else is a dream projection illusion. And by returning to the now, by diving deeply into this moment, we touch the eternal, the infinite, the unnameable. What all religions have tried to describe, which all masters have pointed out, but which can only be experienced. And when we experience this even for a moment, we are never the same. Because now we know, not as a belief, but as a silent certainty. We know that we are the sky, not the clouds. We know that we are the ocean, not the waves. We know that we are the space where everything happens, and that this space cannot be destroyed, nor stained, nor lost. He is you. It always was. Perhaps you are now beginning to realize something that cannot be clearly stated, but that insinuates itself in the silence between the words, something that does not present itself as an explanation, but as a silent recognition within yourself. And that something is the reminder that you have never been separate from anything, that all your anguish was born from the belief that there is an isolated you, separate from the world, from others, from the whole. An illusion so profound that throughout life we begin to defend this fictitious identity as if it were all we have. And with that we build walls, we create boundaries, we classify, judge, compare, fight. We live as if we were in constant war with the world and deep down with ourselves. But see, this whole separation is just an idea, a powerful idea, yes, but still just an idea. The mind is a wonderful tool, but when we take its thoughts as absolute truths, it becomes our prison. We create a conceptual self, a cluster of memories, stories and images, and begin to live as if this were our real identity. But everything that is thought, everything that is perceived, cannot be what it perceives. The consciousness that you are cannot be reduced to any form. She is beyond any label. And when you finally see it, something collapses, and with that collapse comes a huge space. A vast silence where all attempts to define, control, or resist dissolve like snow in the sun. This space is not empty in the ordinary sense. It is empty of fixed forms, of certainties, of limitations, but it is full of presence, of life. It's like the space between the notes that allows the music to exist, like the silence between words that gives meaning to language, like the interval between thoughts that reveals peace. And that space is not far away. It is not out there in some hidden dimension or in a heightened state of consciousness. He's here, now. Always has been. You were just too distracted to notice him, too busy trying to keep alive a fragile identity that was never real. And maybe now you see that there is nothing to achieve, That all the effort to become someone better, more enlightened, more accepted, is just another trap of the ego. Because what you really are cannot be improved. It cannot be improved. It cannot be sought because it was never lost. You don't need to achieve any ideal. You don't need to follow any specific spiritual path, nor abandon your desires or emotions. All you need is to recognize with simplicity and depth what already is. And when that recognition happens, not as a thought, but as a living experience, then the search is over. And in the place of search, love is born. A love that is not directed at anything in particular, but that simply emanates. Because love is the natural expression of being when it is no longer in conflict with itself. But that doesn't mean life becomes a bed of roses. There will still be difficult days. There will still be losses, challenges, changes. The difference is that now you know you are not what happens. You are what everything happens to. You are the space where pain comes and goes, where joy arises and dissolves, where thoughts are born and disappear. And in this space, everything is allowed. Nothing needs to be avoided, nothing needs to be withheld. Everything is accepted, not out of resignation, but out of love. Because that's what true love is, unconditional acceptance of what is. It's looking at reality without demanding that it change. It's allowing others to be who they are without trying to shape them. It is living the present moment with openness, with surrender, with humility. And in this state of love, everything transforms. Relationships stop being battlefields and become mirrors of self-knowledge. Conflicts stop being tragedies and become opportunities for expansion. Emotions stop being enemies and become living expressions of the flow of life. But for this to be experienced, it takes courage. The courage to let go of control, to let go of the idea of who you think you are, to let go of defenses, papers, disguises. And that is the greatest surrender a human being can experience, because it is the surrender of the mind to the mystery, from ego to being, from effort to confidence. It's not giving up, it's a surrender so profound that everything false falls apart, and what's left, just silence, the presence, the being. And that's when life really begins, no longer as a proving ground, but as a garden of possibilities, no longer like a competition, but like a dance. No longer as an escape, but as a return home, not the physical home, but the inner home, that place you never left but had forgotten, the place where everything is fine, where everything is welcome, where everything is love. And that place, that silence, that awareness that now is who you are. Nothing can touch it, nothing can take it away from you, because He is you, and you are the flow of life itself, just like that deep. And when you finally settle into that place, not like someone arriving at a destination, but like someone remembering something obvious and intimate, everything changes. And at the same time, nothing needs to change. Because the most radical transformation that can happen is not changing the world, the circumstances, the people around you. It's changing the way you see, as you perceive, how you relate to what appears. And this change is not an effort. It is not something that is forced, that is achieved with discipline or rigidity. It's like the blossoming of a flower, natural, spontaneous, inevitable, when the soil is fertile and the sun touches it kindly. And the fertile soil of consciousness is silence, not a forced silence, but the one that comes when you stop running away, when you stop searching, when you simply allow everything to be as it is. In this silence, the mind loses its need to justify itself, to explain itself, to defend itself. And you begin to see that nothing needed to be different, that everything, absolutely everything, had and has its place. Even the pain, the fear, the failure, the mistakes, they were all masters in disguise. Everyone pointed with invisible fingers to that place in you that doesn't change. That has always been here, that I was just waiting for you to get tired enough of chasing illusions to finally look inside. And when you look within, you do not find a dark pit of trauma and defects, as the mind fears. You find an open field, a limitless sky, a living stillness. Of course, the thoughts still come, emotions still fluctuate, but now there is space, a space that doesn't try to interfere, that doesn't want to control, that just observes. And this pure observation is in itself healing, because seeing clearly is loving. When you see something without judging it, without wanting it to change, you are loving it. And when you look at yourself like that for the first time, perhaps you begin to free yourself. But make no mistake, the ego will try to return. It doesn't go away that easily. It's like a shadow. No matter how bright the room is, it will be there. But now you know that she is just that, a shadow, a reflection of an ancient belief, a repetition of a conditioning that was useful but can now be set aside. You don't need to fight him. You don't need to destroy it. Just see it, recognize it, and gently let it dissolve into the light of awareness. And perhaps this is the greatest gesture of spiritual maturity. Stop trying to beat yourself, because the self you try to overcome was never real. It is an image, a construction, a story. You don't need more effort, need more presence, need more listening, needs more smoothness. And when this softness sets in, everything becomes lighter, even the pain, even sadness. Because now they are no longer obstacles, but parts of the path. They are like the rains that nourish the earth, even if they bring clouds. And you begin to realize that there is beauty in the clouds too, that they are part of the sky, even if they temporarily hide it. And the supreme beauty is this: everything is part of it. Nothing is outside the game of existence. Nothing is wrong. Even error has its role. Even deception guides us, teaches us, reveals us. And then life stops being a field of correction and becomes a field of expression. You're not here to get it right. It's here to be. And being includes all colors, all tones, all shapes. And finally you start laughing. Not a sarcastic laugh, not a superiority laugh, but a laugh of relief, of tenderness, of astonishment. A laugh that says, how could I forget something so obvious? How could I get so lost in mental labyrinths, in invented fears, in battles that never needed to be fought? And that laughter is liberation. It's like waking up from a very dense dream and realizing that reality is much simpler, much more beautiful, much more alive than you ever imagined. You walk then not as one who seeks, but as one who celebrates. Every step is a dance. Every breath is a prayer. Every look is an encounter with the sacred. Because everything is now seen as an expression of the same essence. Nothing is separate, nothing is out. And you are finally no longer trying to escape life. You are inhabiting it, with all your being, with all your love, with all its truth. And that, my friend, is true peace. Not the peace of the absence of conflict, but the peace of non-resistance. The peace that comes when you no longer have to fight to be who you are, because you already are. It always was, and it always will be. The rest is just the play of form, the dances of impermanence, the colors of dreams. But you, the silent dreamer, the space where everything comes and goes, remains, untouched, free, full. And then, as you walk through this life with eyes that now see not only what is in front of them, but what is behind, within, and beyond everything, changes in flavor. The same world, the same people, the same sounds, smells, and sights, and yet a new dimension reveals itself. Not because the world has changed, it continues with its contrasts, its dualities, its cycles, but because you are no longer separate from it. The illusion of separation was the sole cause of your restlessness, your fear, your constant search for something more. And now that veil has fallen. The truth, after all, is not something that is discovered like someone finding a buried precious stone. Truth is what remains when everything false falls apart, when the characters of the mind are left aside, when the stories you tell about yourself are seen for what they are, stories. It is when all this dissolves that what is real remains, and the real does not need to be defended or believed. He simply is, and that's all. But you see, even knowing this, the mind will try to transform this realization into a new belief, into a new label, into a new spiritual identity. That's what she does. It collects experiences and converts them into knowledge, into structure. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the danger is in confusing the map with the territory, in confusing the word with the thing, in confusing the echo with the presence. Real freedom is beyond any concept. It cannot be imprisoned even in the most beautiful of ideas. She is wild. It's alive, it's indomitable, and therefore it scares the ego. The ego wants certainty, it wants security, it wants guarantees. But real life offers none of that. Real life offers only the present moment. And that moment is always uncertain, always fluid, always new. And that is where its perfection lies, because it is in the unknown that creativity lies. It is in unpredictability that beauty is born. It is in chaos that wisdom flourishes. But only those who no longer need control can see this. Only those who have surrendered the need to understand everything can realize the secret dance that is happening behind the apparent disorder. And when you realize this, you no longer need to run away from the pain. You no longer need to seek pleasure as an addiction. You can experience everything that arises with total openness. You can feel sadness without becoming sad. You can feel anger without getting lost in it. You can live fear without being dominated by it, because now there is space, enough space for everything to exist without conflict, because you are that space. And that's the key. Freedom isn't about avoiding life's ups and downs. It's about no longer identifying with them. It's knowing that even as the drama unfolds on the stage, you are the stage. Even as the waves churn, you are the silent bottom of the sea. Nothing can touch that part of you. Nothing can shake that which is indestructible. And then you become light. Not because everything is easy, but because everything is accepted. Not because everything goes as you would like, but because you no longer need it to go. You are free from the need to control, to manipulate, to protect yourself. You are naked, vulnerable, but invincible. Because only those who have nothing left to hide are truly invulnerable. Only those who have lost everything that was false can rest in what is real. And what is real? It's not an idea. It is not a belief. It is not a transcendent experience. And that, this moment, this breath, this body sitting, walking, living, this mind that thinks, that questions, that sometimes agitates, this heart that beats, that feels, that loves, all of this is real. All this is enough. When the mind stops seeking something beyond the now, reveals its vastness, and it is in this now that everything is contained. Eternity is not infinite time. Eternity is the absence of time. It is pure presence. It's that moment that doesn't us, that is renewed moment after moment without ever ceasing to be now. And you are that. It is not separate from that. You are the now that recognizes yourself, the being that awakens to itself, the consciousness that finally sees itself in the mirror of existence. And in this recognition, there is nothing more to do, nothing to achieve, nothing to protect. There is only life, the dance of being, the pulse of the universe inside and outside of you, which are now no longer two. They are one. One breath, a single silence, one mystery. And perhaps now, in this very moment, you feel something that cannot be named, a stillness that is not the absence of sound, but fullness, a relief as subtle as it is profound, as if you had returned from a long trip without having left your place, because in fact it never came out. It's always been here, just forgot. He was seduced by the voices of the world, by social roles, by unattainable ideals that tell us we should be more, have more, appear more. But all of this falls apart the moment you stop, breathe, and look without filters. The instant you recognize that what you are cannot be improved, that what you seek is already here, just hidden by the clouds of thought. And then life becomes simple, not because the challenges disappear, but because the drama around them dissolves. Not because you become immune to pain, but because you stop seeing pain as the enemy. Resistance disappears, and with it suffering. Suffering is not the pain itself, but the story we tell about it. It is the fight against what is. But when this fighting stops, what remains is peace. The peace that was always here, but that couldn't be felt while you insisted on changing what already is. When you stop resisting, the now opens like a flower, and inside that flower there is everything. Everything you tried to get out there. Everything I thought I needed to conquer. It was always inside you. You're not an idea, it's not a biography, it's not a body that ages or a face that changes. You are the one who perceives all of this, that which has never changed since the first moment of consciousness. That silent observer who was always there even when you forgot about him. He who sees without judging, who welcomes without demanding, who loves without conditions. That's what it is, and by living from that place, you become one with the flow of life, one with sunrise and sunset, one with the smile and the tear, one with emptiness and fullness. There is no longer anything to divide, what to compare, what to defend. The separation dissolves, and the world suddenly stops being a hostile place. It becomes a mirror, a reflection of your own state of being, and when you are at peace, everything reflects that peace. Even chaos, even uncertainty. You don't need to understand everything. The mystery is not here to be deciphered, but to be experienced, like a song that cannot be analyzed but danced, like a poem that can't be explained but felt. And you are part of this poem, not an isolated phrase, but a living rhyme in the eternal verse of the universe. And that's what living is, allowing the music to play through you without trying to control the melody. It is to be the tuned instrument that vibrates with the wind of existence. So breathe, simply breathe, and feel like everything is right. Even when it feels wrong, feel like you are already at home, even if the world seems strange. Because home is not a place. Home is this state of being where nothing needs to be different for everything to be okay. If this message touched something in you, if it awakened a forgotten memory, if it brought some silence to your agitated mind, consider liking this video. Share it with someone who might also be ready to remember. Subscribe to the channel to continue exploring these reflections, and activate the bell so you don't miss the next dives into the mystery of existence. And above all, don't forget you are not here to find yourself. You are here to remember that you were never lost. All that you are already is, until the next moment, the next silence, the next now.